FM.
Okay, so our analysts for this morning, we have sitting on my immediate right, Gbolahan, good morning.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Kayode, and good morning, Lagos.
Gbolahan is at Mr. G Quest on Twitter. Please follow him and also engage with him on that platform. We have Davoe Okorie. Morning, Davoe.
Good morning, Lagos. Cool mixed reactions after independence.
All right. And then we have Cheta Nwanze. Good morning, Cheta.
Good morning.
Cheta is at Checkster. Okay, let's go on to our first story for this morning, and I'll come to you, Gbolahan, for it. Buhari rejects insinuation of third term, says it is inconceivable. Indeed, his words are, or he's described it as inconceivable and uninformed. He was reacting to rumors making the rounds on social media that he was seeking to amend the constitution to spend a third term in office. Can you please take us to this story?
Yes, this story broke out on social media, just as you mentioned, on Tuesday or earlier part of Tuesday, if not Monday, that the president is looking to extend his tenure beyond the second term that he'll be doing at the expiration of the second term in office. And of course, this is not been confirmed yet. This is only just social media, and we know what happens on social media. A lot of people throw information out there, and before you know it, it's gone on like wildfire, and
Right.
then it's making the rounds all across. But the senior special assistant on media and publicity, that is Malam Gabashew, debunked this and saying that there is no basis for the president seeking a second term, and then under no circumstances could he possibly amend the constitution to give the president a third term to run. This is according to Garba Shehu. And he's gone further to say that it's undemocratic
Mhm.
and that the president, he's is a Democrat who respects the constitution and would not even dare to think about tampering with the constitution.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is interesting, and sometimes people often say that there's no smoke without fire, and that there must be some element somewhere. We don't know. There's no confirmation to this yet, and all we can just say is that we do hope that there is no basis for this, and then there shouldn't be any reason for any constitutional amendment. We know what has happened in the past, where President Obasanjo did try to amend the constitution so that he could run a second term.
Yes, sir.
That,
A third term.
sorry, a third term, I should say. That failed woefully because, of course, in order for you to run a third term, you need the constitutions amended, and who's going to amend the constitutions? It's the lawmakers that
Yeah.
would be doing the amendment of the constitution. So, of course, there needs to be support from the lawmakers. However, what I would say is that who knows? Maybe this is just to test how popular the president is. So therefore, they've thrown this out because, of course, was done by some um organization that is supporting the president, and they started coming up with some campaign saying that he should run for the second term. So this might just be some trying to sense the population and just to get a feel of what the population would do, if it's
The
acceptable for
reaction of
them, or the
people.
reaction of the people if it's accepted.
Okay.
So let's see. It's just rumors for now.
All
We
right.
do hope that
Well,
this
it's
is
rumors
exactly
and it's
true.
been
It's
debunked.
not rumors. Um, I will work towards making Buhari president for life. That was said by Lawal Gumao, April 11, 2018. He's senator representing Bauchi South. There are people who intend to do this, so let's not. Um, the watchword here is vigilance.
Mm.
Let's not go to sleep. The, it has been tried before, it will be tried again.
All right.
Our institutions are weak, so
Well,
which means that people will make such efforts.
all right.
Whether they succeed is another matter entirely.
All right, thank you very much, Etta. It's important for us to also note the firm statement from the presidency, and they've mentioned that there is not even the faintest possibility that this will change. That's the change in terms of him serving a full second term and then standing, and then the general election come 2023, him not contesting. Cheta, I'll come to you for the second story. Government rejigs social investment programs for effectiveness, efficiency from the Guardian newspaper. So we have the report here that the federal government is rejigging its social investment programs for effectiveness and efficiency with the establishment of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Now, this was also part of the speech of the president for Independence Day yesterday, Cheta. He spoke about he was quite firm on their stance to tackle social issues in Nigeria. Can you please take us through this story?
I don't even remember the name of Saleh, Maman Saleh. Maman Saleh is the name of the new Minister for Humanitarian Affairs. I think it's important to just put that out there.
Yeah.
It's also important to acknowledge the fact that ever since rumors of that they were moving these things away from the vice president's office emerged, there was first no, that we're not making him VP academic. I mean, there was that denial. So on the theme of denials, just so you would relate it to what happened last. The rumor mill went into overdrive. That this is an attempt to defangle Vice President Osibajo and all of that. Let's not dwell on that.
Okay.
I would like to dwell on at least the hard stuff.
Okay.
I don't support this move. And why I don't support it is, especially with the creation of a dedicated ministry, it's clearly a move towards permanence. We don't have a good record with such things. Now, a bit of going back, this is October of 2019. So exactly 3 years ago, 26th of October 2016, the then Minister of Budget and National Planning, who is now Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, announced that 65 billion naira had been released for social investment programs. And in her speech, or in her chat with journalists, which was done after the Federal Executive Council meeting of that day, she made certain things clear. The social investment programs were temporary to bridge a gap. They were to handle school feeding, job creation, conditional cash transfer, and then enterprise promotion in form of loans to business for a period of 2 years. I didn't say it.
Yeah. No, well.
So for a period of 2 years.
Can I just
this is 3 years later, and we're moving towards permanence. Okay, ask.
Before you continue, sorry to barge in, but I just wanted to clarify. Sometimes when a part of the project, they see that there's a need for continuation. I mean, he's mentioned in this report about how international organizations have lauded these social intervention programs. Talk about the African Development Bank, World Economic Forum. Perhaps what they
I haven't seen those reports, but then I'm a cynic, so maybe I'm not looking hard enough for them. What I do know is that we have a penchant for making some of these things permanent rather than temporary as they should be. An example I will give is an example that comes to mind is Jubril Aminu launched a program a temporary program back in 1973 for educationally disadvantaged states in order for them to catch up with those that were educationally advantaged. I don't think any of us sitting here was born in 1973. That program was supposed to be temporary for 6 years. 6 years that enables which essentially life cycle of your first few years in school. That the idea was that after 6 years, the educational disadvantage would have caught up. 1973, please forgive my maths. 1973 was 46 years ago, and we are still talking of educational disadvantage states 46 years later. So that is the direction this will go. It will become a huge drain on resources that somebody somewhere it will become almost impossible for you to get it off because people are now chopping on top of the matter.
All right, thank you, Joseph.
I mean, I just wanted to add very quickly, I personally do not see any problem in having it as a permanent program, because of course when we're talking about social investment program, you would always find people that will fall into this trap. So if you make it 2 years, you would later on down the line, you would always have that there'll be a need. You have such programs taking place all over the world. It happens. You have it in the UK, you have it in America. Hold on, Cheta, just hold on a minute. You have it all over the world. The only issue that you have is the sustainability of it, one. Then the second thing is also, what impact has it made? How do you measure and assess this? That's the issue I have. We don't really have any form of measurement or assessment of these things. And as you go along, then you can continue to retweak and rejig it, as long as you're measuring the performance and the impact. Now we're talking about social investment programs. We haven't actually seen any measurement. We're just seeing that money is being doled out. That is where the problem is for me.
All right. Thank you very much.
I disagree with that.
Emeka says on WhatsApp, as Buhari won the second term, his case is still in the Supreme Court.
He's won it, forget it.
Right. Then, from Adeba says, on the third term agenda by President Buhari, this seriously. This government does not obey the rule of law and will not obey our constitution.
Simon from Lekki says, in this government, I believe anything, including its agenda. We can only hope it's fake news. Otherwise, anything can happen as usual. There will be several people who will defend it, like they defend his disobedience to court orders. Get the judiciary, National Assembly, and armed forces are headed by allies of the president.
All right, thank you for your comment. Please keep them coming through WhatsApp, YouTube, and of course on Twitter as well. Move on to our next story. Davoe, I'll come to you. Worrying news from the Queen's College School here in Lagos Federal School. However, the Federal Ministry of Education, through its permanent secretary, Mr. Sonia Chono, has come out to debunk reports of an outbreak of epidemic in the school. So in the past few days, we've heard that some students had been sent home, thousands of them, 1,000 of them actually, with 300 students being affected by what was said to be an epidemic caused by possibly a water or foodborne illness. However, he's come out to say there's no such thing as that and people should stop spreading rumors. Can you please take us to this story?
Well, this issue has so many views because of the various articles on it, and it's very disturbing that one of our primary institutions, secondary institutions, has such an epidemic breakout with such news surrounding it. Here, the Federal Ministry of Education, the permanent secretary did come into town as of yesterday. He said he wanted to have an on-ground view himself. And what he said, well, he went immediately to the sick bay and noticed that just a few students were there. And at the end of the day, the complaints were over malaria and flu. And that he asked around that what was the issue, and he was told that there was no problem, and that he had heard that the breakout had taken place, and that he wanted to immediately dispel such rumors that it was false and untrue, and that things would be taken care of and gotten back into shape. However, the Punch also reported that the PTA chairman of the school, that's Queen's College, who visited on 2 accounts, said that, first of all, the first account was that 700 students had been sent home on account of illness. And then the second report was that it had maxed about 1,000 students who had been sent home on accounts of flu, malaria, and typhoid-related illnesses, and that the school management had planned to cover it up. Now, first of all, how can the school management, with such a health breakdown, be planning to cover up? Now, no other person than the school PTA chairman is talking, so it means that his own ward is also in the school, so he is an interested party, and also the chairman of representing a number of other parents. To the extent that 1,000 students have to leave, it's no longer an allegation. This is a parent saying that 1,000 students sick leave just to leave, and that hope maybe the school was not sprayed. This is the same school 2 years ago that had an infection breakout, whereby for some time it was looked as if the school management could not handle the matter. I think it's a major break in our governance if the federal government, in its full capacity, through regulation and then dispel the reality on ground. I don't know what's really going on there. If the permanent secretary can actually come, and the school management itself hasn't spoken on this matter. Most parents obviously would take their children's health situation serious, and I think more people need to speak out. If there is a real issue there that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed, we shouldn't have to wait until we start losing lives before we now start taking serious action, or before we then own up to the reality of what is going on.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, the permanent secretary has come out to give a statement, a formal statement from the Federal Ministry of Education. However, we do know they have students, or we know people who attend Queen's College. It would be good to hear from you if you're listening to us. Tell us what the situation is on ground, to put side by side this statement. Thank you to Haruna Ismail Oyomi, who's said Maman Saleh is Minister of Power, not Humanitarian, and the Minister is Sadiya Umar Farouk. That's the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Just take note of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then Babatunde Scott from Sulere says Buhari is the first president serving his second term since OBJ. Hence, we have the third term story coming out again. A constitutional amendment will require the 36 State Assembly to agree, and it won't happen. So third is not possible and should not
Don't
be
be
taken
too sure.
seriously. All right, let's move on to the next story. EFCC to take over Maina from DSS. Well, let me come to you for this day. I believe was it 3 or 2 days ago. We spoke about declaration of Maina's assets by the EFCC. Now we have EFCC another report in relation to Abdulrasheed Maina, who is the former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Force and who was arrested by the DSS for, has been wanted for the diversion of 100 billion naira meant for payment of pensioners.
Yes, so to start off with, the amounts that you've mentioned now, that is coming to me as a surprise because originally 100 billion, yeah, it was about between 2 to 5 billion was what was mentioned. So seeing 100 billion, I mean, I'm a bit surprised at that. Maybe it's an error from
it's 2.1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. So, but going on from that, when we look at the story, of course, we know the story about Maina, who of course, absconded the country, returned back into Nigeria in 2017, only to be found also working at the Ministry of Interior as a director, then suspiciously. And this is a man that has been wanted for quite a number of years. He's been wanted now for about 4 years or more. But now he's been arrested now by the DSS, and there's talk of the DSS handing him over to the EFCC. And this talk of the handover to the EFCC is saying that he will be handed over to the EFCC after the DSS has done their own investigation. Once they've concluded their investigation, they will be handing him over. But the question I have with this is that how many agencies do we have that is going to be investigating or that will be prosecuting such an offense? The problem that we always have in Nigeria is that you always have duplication of responsibilities all the time, where you have one agency and the other agency doing the same work, and then there tends to be a clash of duties. Well, if you're saying that they will be handing him over to the EFCC, well, they should do that as soon as possible, and they should do it promptly. But we do know that a few years back, Maina released a video where he was threatening to bring down people in government that are also involved in this scandal, that he's not the only one that is involved in it, and that there are people in higher office that are also involved in this pension scam. Now, this has led to a lot of postulations that it has people that are protecting him, people in higher office, who are defending him, and as such, that's the reason why he hasn't actually been prosecuted for so long. And that also ties into the fact that he was found in the Ministry of Interior as a director, even while he was a wanted man.
Right.
So we wait and see what the EFCC will do, and we wait and see what the prosecution will be. But we do hope that in an effort to tackle corruption and to fight corruption, he should be prosecuted, and the full weight of the law should come hard on him. And whoever is also involved should also be prosecuted too. So we'll wait and see.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's move on to our next story. And this one comes to you, Davoe. It says here, Obaseki to sue NDDC contractors over shoddy projects. And like I mentioned, it's on the Punch newspaper. So the governor of Edo State, that's Godwin Obaseki, has said the state government will sue the Niger Delta Government Commission and its contractors for their alleged shoddy road projects. And it goes on to talk about how they blamed it on flooding in parts of Edo State. And they're just generally seeking legal redress. Please walk us through the story.
The governor is a stakeholder, and as a recipient of the NDDC projects, obviously they're not satisfied. And this is basically in some roads that contractor within the past years built without creating gutters. And even when the community did tell the contractor to open up the gutters so that water could flow, he refused, and at the end of the day, the floods did come and destroyed a lot of the properties. Now, the governor was saying on an inspection with the representative of the NDDC abandoned the House of Representatives ad hoc committee on NDDC abandoned projects, that the government would take up legal means to get redress for those who have been affected. Now, the leader of the House ad hoc committee said that there was no sign of the projects awarded in 2012 by the NDDC for execution in Edo State. Background. Let me repeat myself.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee had said that there was no sign of the projects awarded in 2012 by the NDDC for execution in Edo State. First of all, that meant that projects were awarded,
but nothing was
fund was released, and nothing was done. Now, this is just in Edo State in one project. Can we have a probe on all the projects and let's see where we come out with? This truth that we've been hiding, we've been passing across, and I wonder what inspired the governor. Because if every governor that has a representative within NDDC asks this same question or does an assessment on what they have benefited from the NDDC, I think there will be major explosions within this country. If you remember, I think the last minister of the Niger Delta ministry said that out of the 800 billion that was earmarked for the Niger Delta ministry, only one project was completed. So I think that there's a major issue here. That excuse that the country has been unfair to the Niger Delta, I think has been pandied for too long. It's about time we start to get the truth out of what was really done with all the money that was committed towards the Niger Delta states. So Governor Obaseki, please can you get all your other fellow governors to be asking the same questions? Residents of the Niger Delta, it is your duty now not to just pounce on the federal government, but pounce on your on all the committees and all the funds that are coming towards you to confirm whether you have gotten value for money or you've been ripped off all these years.
Thank you very much for that one. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, Cheta. It's from The Punch. It says Buhari presents budget to National Assembly next week. So the presidency on Tuesday gave reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari didn't keep to his administration's promise to present the 2020 budget to the National Assembly in the third week of September. And well, they further said that basically goes on and on, really. But please walk us through the story.
I don't know why we're choosing to focus on when the more salient issue. The more salient issue is on budget performance as far as I'm concerned, and whether our medium-term expenditure framework and the assumptions on which we base our budget are feasible. So let's start with revenue. I mean, in yesterday's independence speech, the president said, and I quote, revenue generating agencies that fail to meet their targets will face severe consequences. Now, for him to be saying that on Independence Day speech, it tells you that there's fire on the mountain in terms of revenue. So I went back a bit till 2012 to look at our revenue performance as against approved revenue target for all of these agencies. And 2012 to 2018, we had 22%, 19%, 12%, 11%, 21%, 21%, 16%. Last time I checked, that's F9 parallel in terms of revenue generation from non-oil sources. So that's a problem. Clearly, we are not meeting revenue targets yet. We are still putting very unrealistically high revenue targets. Last time around, the revenue target was it 6.6 trillion. And the performance was very poor. And then this time around, they're making 9.17. How bad? Then you talk of the assumption is a 2.1 million barrel production a day. While Nigeria has signed an agreement with OPEC that we will not exceed 1.74 million barrels of oil per day. So that contradiction is something that will need to be sorted out. We have the price assumption. Initially, it was 60. They brought it down to 55. But you have to look at global geopolitics before making such assumptions. The fact that the attack by Houthi drones or Iranian drones, if you choose to listen to U.S. President Trump, on Saudi oil fields did not move the needle on oil prices, and Brent is still $59 a barrel. It should tell you that the days of high oil prices are behind us. So we should sit down, look at budget performances, and then draw up a completely new and realistic budget. Until we do that, all of these things are just jamboree. And what the president is essentially doing when he goes to read the budget is to read a best-selling novel, a work of fiction,
All right, thank you, Cheta. It's not a work of fiction. It's work that a lot of work goes into.
It's
producing
a
the budget.
metaphor.
I do understand. I just need to clarify. All right. Thank you very much, Cheta. Good morning. My niece was in QC. She had to come home very many times for typhoid, one infection or another. And yes, there was confirmation of 1 or 2 deaths. My niece told us then that the water was horribly dirty. Arrangements had to be made to take pure water for brushing and bottled water for drinking to school till she finished, after which her health-related trips stopped. We were lucky to live in Lagos and be able to do this. Not every parent can afford to do this. A full-blown inquiry should be carried out. Young, innocent lives have been lost before. This is from Tally. And then on the NDCC, Obaseki, we need national leaders, not tribal ones. Our politicians are very tribal, and that's why we have regional development commissions as a political solution instead of genuinely fixing our economy, which will improve every Nigerian.
More like money sharing agencies.
All right, let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, Gbolahan. It's from the Vanguard newspaper. Lagos doctors raise alarm over imminent collapse of health services. So, the doctors under the Lagos state government basically are talking about how there's an imminent collapse looming to happen, basically, and it's due to an acute shortage of doctors in hospitals across the state.
Well, the question I would like to start by asking is that is the healthcare system in Nigeria generally and in Lagos State not already collapsed as we speak? I mean, this is something that is reoccurring that we've always talked about severally. We have issues in our healthcare system. We have one of the highest infant mortality rates, one of the highest what you call infant mortality rate. We also have one of the highest maternal rates too. There's so many indices that shows that we do have a healthcare crisis at hand. But of course, this article now, it was the Medical Guild of Lagos State Doctors, according to the chairman of the Medical Guild, which is just an association of doctors working under the auspice of the Lagos State government. They've come to say that, of course, there's a shortage of doctors. This is not news to us. This is something that we've known
So how can
severally.
we rectify this? What can we do to recommend this?
Well, they've talked about brain drain. They've talked about the solutions to it. Of course, the solutions to it is that making sure that they employ as many doctors as possible, and also ensuring that you also pay the doctors well, you remunerate the doctors well, and you try as much as possible to ensure that the workload is reduced. Because in this article, it talks about how doctors are seeing 100 patients a day and how there's been so many doctors that have left the country. And it also makes comparison to the UK, where in the UK you have about 200,000 doctors. You know, the population of the UK is about 60 million, whereas compared to Nigeria, you have 42,000 doctors to 200 million people. And when you're talking about 42,000, it also states that half of them are not working in the medical system at present. So of course there's a shortage. We need to reduce the workload on the doctors and pay them handsomely.
Thank you very much. As we have mentioned, real quick for this one for Davoe, JAMB official who claimed snake swallowed money tried to bribe an auditor. This one's from the Premium Times.
Yeah, basically here it's just the unraveling of that case, that fraud for about 35 million, whereby within which zone was this? That was in the Abuja zone, whereby e-facility cards, registration fees, and change of forms were the remittance was not done by 2 JAMB officials who, when under prosecution, claimed had all these spurious allegations or spurious claims that a mermaid came to visit them at night through the housemaid, and then the one that became popular was that a snake swallowed the 35 million. Well, it's been uncovered through a prosecution witness that those 2 officials did bribe one of the auditors with about 50K to keep quiet about the disappearance. I mean, it just gets dumber and dumber by the day. But the truth is, this is the system we live and work with. For all those people who have alligators and elephants eating Nigeria's money, they need to come to book, and the truth needs to come out. Enough of this madness. The system is what it is. It's you and I that either make it work or make it not work.
All right. Thank you very much for that one.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Thanks to everyone who sent in messages. Unfortunately, we can't go through all of them as our time is time. But thanks, analysts. Let's keep the conversation going though. On Twitter, we're at Smooth FM. Please use the hashtag freshlypressed981. On Lagos Talks today, we'll be having a special on health, but a look at autism and managing autism, and coming from an activist as well as a woman who has a child living with autism. We'll be looking at this in detail. Would enjoin you to please tune in at that time. Before then, it's the Locker Room 981. A big thanks to our analyst, Gbolahan at Mr. G Quest on Twitter, Davoe Okorie at Davoe Okorie on Twitter, and of course Cheta at Checks on Twitter. Lagos will be back in a moment.
I can see you in the spirit.